What's up, guys? This is Bastian here coming at you with another Pokemon TCG old school theme deck profile. And indeed, we are looking at none less than the famous Turmoil theme deck from Legendary Collection. I think it's safe to say that Wizards of the Coast have really gone all out for the Legendary Collection theme decks. There are two, one of them which we're looking at right now, and the other one is Lava, which stars Charizard. Yes, the base set Charizard in a theme deck. Unbelievable. However, I cannot afford this deck. If you guys look at eBay, if you're even lucky enough to see one on sale, it's usually anywhere between a few $100s up to $1,000, maybe even more in some cases, depending how ambitious the seller is and whether they actually want to sell it to somebody or they just want to keep on advertising it on the platform. Nevertheless, this deck is very strong, and those of you who follow me will know by now that my buddies and myself, we like to have theme deck showdowns where we just shuffle up two theme decks. We try to go around the weakness resistance problem, so we tend to choose the ones that don't necessarily have an advantage over another. But nevertheless, it's still theme deck showdown. So when I show you this deck profile, I'll show it to you in this very limited format and what it does and why is it so good. So let's jump right into it with the Pokemon cards, and you will be delighted to see that we actually get a very big amount of Pokemon cards in this starter deck. Let's start with our electric ones. This is a water electric deck, by the way, and we immediately have three Magnemites here from the base set. Nothing to look at really. Nobody really runs this Magnemite besides, of course, this little format of ours, but it still does a 10 damage attack with a possible paralyze, which is really good in this format. And the self-destruct can just close out the game for you. If you just need that one last prize card, you can self-destruct. If that 40 damage is enough to KO your opponent and you win the game, well, then it doesn't matter as long as your opponent has more than one prize card left. Otherwise, you're going to get a draw, and draw isn't that bad either. Now, one of the things that is really important with themed decks is that your basics go somewhere. So I think one of the important things that I look at with theme decks is, do my basics have an evolution line? Can I do something more with them than just the usually underpowered basics sitting there on the bench and just being, gusto win fodder? Well, we got the fossil magneton here, and it's nothing to scoff at because this guy actually packs a punch. Now, the self-destruct attack is obviously a one-off thing, but if you manage to fully evolve this Magneton on your bench and it's ready to kick some ass, you can get off a couple of Sonic Boom attacks even, and then go into that self-destruct and take out your opponent's main evolution line from that theme deck. Now that's really important because most of the theme decks will only have really one, maybe two evolution lines. That is sort of the big Pokemon that the deck is sort of built around. Now this deck is different. We actually have three boss monsters, and one of them is Magneton. Not the best one, but certainly something that can pack a huge punch with that self-destruct attack. Our second lineup of electric, we look at three jungle Pikachus, and they're not my favorite Pikachus, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, but the 50 HP is good. Getting down a Pokemon that can actually deal 20 damage in basic is still actually pretty good in this format. You don't really come across a lot of energy removals unless you've played Blackout. Blackout is just honestly the best theme deck. But then this Pikachu can also deal 10 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So really you get 30 damage off of those two energies, but you have to divide it. Obviously 20 goes to your opponent's active and then 10 onto the bench. But bench attacks are always good, especially in this limited format. And very importantly, this deck goes into Dark Raichu Now, interestingly, I do believe that the Dark Raichu that was printed for this set is non-foil, which is the only version of this Dark Raichu that is non-foil. This Dark Raichu was, of course, the secret promo of the Team Rocket expansion, and as far as I know, in the Team Rocket expansion, it only exists as a foil version. However, in this theme deck, it was printed as a non-foil version card. Now, I do really like this Dark Raichu, and I tried to build a deck around it with the promo Pikachu, the movie promo Pikachu. But the problem is really that Blaine's Rapidash is just better. However, in this limited format, the Surprise Thunder attack is absolutely amazing. So you do have to beef it up, obviously. 3 Lightning Energy is, you gotta get there. But it does deal 30 damage straight off the bat, so that's good. And then you flip a coin, and then if you flip a heads, you flip another coin. And if they were both heads, you deal 20 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. If only the first one was a head and the second was a tails, then you still deal 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So really this Pikachu Dark Raichu lineup is heavily leaning onto the back row damage, and that is just very powerful. Generally in any format, but obviously it's normally difficult to pull something like this off in base Neo just due to the fact that usually one energy Pokemon tend to roam the lands. Let's move on to water Pokemon though. We have 2 copies of Tentacool. Now, Tentacool doesn't have the Tentacruel evolution in this particular deck. However, it does very nicely to complement the Lightning deck because, of course, you can play around with weaknesses and resistances, and this Tentacool also doesn't have a retreat cost. And just having a basic that doesn't have a retreat cost, especially in these team decks, is very powerful because if you get a KO, you got a Tentacool up, you can just send it up, and then you have options to play with. Then you draw your cards, you might have a trainer you want to play, then you can position yourself a little bit better, and you got that free retreat cost Tentacool up. Not only that, but actually the cowardice Pokemon power is not too bad because anytime during your turn, before you attack, you can just pick Tentacool back up into your hand. All the energy cards go to your discard. However, it could be that you need some bench space. It could be that you just don't want your opponent to take the KO on that Tentacool at 30 HP is really nothing. But I do also like that it has a one single water energy attack, the acid attacks. That can also be pretty useful. This is the only Pokemon that doesn't have an evolution lineup in our deck, by the way. So that's really really good. Again, in this format. Now let's look at our boss monster lineup. We have 4 copies of the base set Squirtle. I love this little guy. I'm a big fan of Squirtle, really cute Pokemon. I love the story of the Gen 1 Squirtle, how Ash meets up with the Squirtle gang and all that. And again, we have an attack that we've noticed on Magnemite. 1 energy, 10 damage, and maybe a paralyze. And actually, if you compare these two, they're not too dissimilar because they're both 40 HP, and they both have a singleton attack that can potentially paralyze. And then they both have a 2 energy attack, but of course Squirtle's withdraw is very, very good if you get the coin flip right. Then it just, Squirtle goes back in the shell, withdraws into the shell, and then prevents all damage. And then we go into 3 Dark Water Holes. Double Slap is okay. It's an okay attack. I also like that the retreat cost is still only 1. Usually on stage 1s, keeping the retreat cost the same as the basic is generally a good thing. And we also get Mirror Shell. If an attack does damage to Dark Water during your opponent's next turn, even if Dark Water is knocked out, Dark Water attacks the defending Pokemon for an equal amount of damage. This can be a very nice little setup when your opponent has like a massive attack they're trying to get off you. You just start up that Mirror Shell, and you're going to get that exact same amount of damage pushed back onto your opponent. But what we are really trying to get to, what we're really trying to evolve into is this 1 singleton copy of Dark Blastoise. This should be the foil card in the deck. I already had Dark Blastoises from my childhood, so this is one of the copies that I had since I was a young teenager, and I really didn't want to pay the money for a foil Dark Blastoise. But also this tells the story that if you just want to build this Turmoil deck and you want to pick up a couple of theme decks, do some theme deck battles, you can just put this together on a budget. You don't need the box for it, and you can still have a lot of fun with it. Dark Blastoise, by the way, is a fantastic Pokemon. Yes, it only has 70 HP, but we do have a generally good amount of trainer lineup to be able to defend Dark Blastoise. Anyway, Hydro Cannon is fantastic, 30 damage, and you can plus 20 damage it for each water energy, but you cannot go over 70 HP. So for 4 water energy, you can deal 70 HP with this guy, which is fantastic. I also like Rocket Tackle, not in this particular deck, but if you would run this out in the wilderness and just be able to swing with Rocket Tackle with the water and then a DCE, that's fantastic. And then we have a stage 2, which only has 2 for a retreat cost, which is still very reasonable realistically. And then finally, we do have some colorless support, and this is indeed very good support. It's not just, oh, let's put in a couple of colorless cards. We have a no weakness Dratini, again 40 HP, a 1 energy, 10 damage attack. That's about it. But what we really like about this is the 2 Dark Dragonairs, which we can then evolve into. Again, no weakness, very nice to have that psychic resistance as well. The evolutionary light is absolutely fantastic. It will just completely get all the evolution cards out of our deck, which is a massive benefit, of course. If you can search your deck for any Pokemon card, then you're more likely to draw your trainers. Well, of course, you're more likely to draw your energies as well. However, it's just a straight up advantage in this little theme deck format. And then we also have a decent enough attack with the Tail Strike, although it is 3 colorless, but that's not unusual for colorless Pokemon to have a little bit overcosted attack, because you can just use any energy type, of course. If deal 20 damage, flip a coin. If heads, this deals actually 40 damage. If tails, is the normal 20. Potential 40, yeah, that's absolutely good, especially from a tech Pokemon. Let's move on to the trainer cards, and immediately we start with 3 bills, but this is already a little bit unusual for many of these theme decks to have so much draw power as 3 bills, but we don't even stop here, because we also have 2 copies of Challenge, which basically serve as 2 more bills. I find more often than not the opponent is going to let you draw 2 cards. Unless they are extremely desperate. If they are extremely desperate and they have nothing on their bench, don't give them the chance to refill their bench anyway, because you're in a pretty good position to win the game. But certainly early game, being able to just get out pretty much all your basics from the deck, and then potentially with a well-timed Dark Dragonair you can get all the evolutions out as well, is just very consistent in what this deck is trying to do. And then on top of this, we also get 2 copies of the Boss's Way. So this allows us to search for any one of the 2 Dark Dragonairs. It allows us to search for any 3 Dark War Turtles. It gets the Dark Blastoise out of the deck, and it also gets the Dark Raichu out of the deck as well. So it's got so many targets. I don't think there is any theme deck that has this much draw support in the base Neo format in general. So really strong draw support, and it makes the deck also very consistent, and that compared to other theme decks is definitely something to bear in mind. Now, I said we have some tools to keep that Dark Blastoise up and running. That's this 3 copy potion lineup that we have here. Admittedly, I wouldn't mind if at least one of them was a super potion, but I will still settle for the 3 potions. At least we have some damage removal. This, and also we can, of course, pick up Tentacle into our hand, which could be another little defense. You might not even want to put any energies on Tentacle. Just whack it up there if you know your opponent only deals 10 or 20 damage. Go for it. And then finally, we got 2 copies of Energy Retrieval. I am assuming this is predominantly in the deck because of Tentacle, because there isn't really any other attack that would discard energies from our Pokemon. And even just against energy removal, it can be a good card. But usually in these team decks, you have so many energies that these energy retrievals are not really going to come into play that often. Sometimes they will. And then something that's absolutely beautiful in this deck is that it actually only included 12 copies of lightning and 12 copies of water energy. Normally these team decks have like 26. So for them to say, oh, we're only going to put like 24 in, that could be the fact that we actually get to energy retrievals. Now these team decks are great to get your energy card base up if you want to, build your own decks and stuff like that. I went online and I remember buying the Bodyguard theme deck because I wanted a muck. And a singleton muck that was in used condition was more expensive than getting the Bodyguard theme deck unopened, completely fresh, completely new. And by the way, if you haven't checked out that video, of course I have it for you at the closing end screen. But yeah, anyway, this is it for Turmoil, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Please bear in mind that you can play old school Pokemon on a budget. It is absolutely possible. Get your energies from these theme decks, buy the theme decks used. It doesn't have to be unopened and brand new. As long as you're having fun with the cards, that's all that matters. Up until next time, guys, Bussian signing out. Peace.